changed their algorithm recently, much favoring people who are paying for posts to be seen, but also to favor pictures and videos over text. So that's one more reason besides our human nature. The reason they have done this is because they know people like the stuff with images more than they like the text, and that's why they changed the algorithm so that people, they're not going to see the text anymore, or not as likely. Here are some of the groups that I mentioned that are UU groups. There are a number of others. If you click on this link later on, it will show you everything that has UU in its name and it's a group. And it would either be a closed or an open one. The hidden secret ones you wouldn't be able to see. So the first two, I think, are very good resources for you to join, to ask questions and get information back, past this class. So now I'm going to jump over to Twitter. So Twitter is great, like I was saying earlier, for public. It limits you to 140 characters, which is why it's also very important to use a link shortener, because you only get 140 characters. That's actually why they invented the link shortener, was in response to needing to fit things into 140 characters. So every character counts that way. And you can have more than one link in there, but I would probably only have one that's a picture, because I think it's the first picture that would actually be displayed usually to the user in Twitter. But you could also have a link to the website or an article. So if you have a picture for an article as well as a link to it, then you might want to have both. Now hashtags, I talked a little bit about it before, but it's where you put the pound sign. For our own event here, the hashtag is rather long, UUOMDSI. And if you put that and you post a message on Twitter, everyone else is going to see it. And I really mean everybody. This is not like Facebook where there's an algorithm that you have to try to get past or you have to pay for people to see it. No. If you're using the hashtag, people are going to see your post. It's total democracy. There's no money involved here.
Okay. So I don't get Twitter, and I don't need to get Twitter, but I thought the thing about hashtags was that I needed to be following OMDSI.
That's if you want to see it.
Okay.
But if
so can you show us a sample?
yeah, I'm going into a service called TweetDeck, which is owned by Twitter. I'm already logged in, which is why I didn't have to log in. But it's free, and it allows you to do lots of things in these different columns. Yeah, it's called TweetDeck. Yes, and it's in another slide. There's TweetDeck and Hootsuite. Again, birds. They are the two sites, the services that a lot of people use, because often you have more than one persona. And if you just go into plain old Twitter, you can only do one thing. But if you go into here, I can be several things. So when I say a tweet, I can check off, do I want to be myself? Do I want to be UUA, GA chat, which I'm not going to do, or do I want to be my congregation? And I don't have to do it as myself, I can do it just as my congregation. I can do it as me and the congregation. It'll tweet as both.
So the hashtag's like a subject line, sort of?
Yes.
And that @ sign is who you are?
Yes.
Okay.
Which I've tried to talk to some of the people here about. In fact, I have I think a fun tweet earlier that some of them might want to attend this class because they were using it incorrectly. They've been encouraging a lot of people to use the @ sign. And that it's supposed to be the hashtag is what you use for people to see your messages. And they started doing it. See here, OMD, it used to be they weren't putting the pound of UUOMDSI in their own posts. So if you searched for the pound, you couldn't actually see the things they were posting as SI. And I explained to them, no, if you're the @ you still need to put the pound in your message, because if people search for the pound, they won't see it. Because @ and pound, @ is a person, a pound, or a group, or a entity. It could be your church, But a pound is a tag, it's a subject.
Can I ask a question there, and people were answering me, so they clearly saw it, but I don't know what it was that I did. I have no idea what it was that I did.
Yeah,
'Cause I'm not on
if you
Twitter.
put #UU,
No, I didn't do any of
#UHA,
that.
but it also, this is, brings to the topic that if you're doing an event, you need to tell people what to use for the tag.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they'll come up with something on their own. And usually, that's not what you're going for. You're wanting everyone to be able to have this public conversation.
I'm just thinking it was automatic.
And they, here for our event, they actually misunderstood. They thought they were going to have to retweet everyone's messages. And that's because, no, you don't have to do that. Just everyone uses the hashtag,
Yeah.
and we're all good. You don't need to worry about that. But if people are sending it to the @ and then they have to retweet it, that's a lot more work. It's designed for you to use the # and the subject. And #UU is the big one for users. So this allows you to create multiple columns. So I have a column here that I can see the @ symbol and see they're getting people who are posting to this and not the #. And see, this is why you have to tell people only the #. Don't tell people the @ because suddenly people who are using it as it was intended with the #, you're not getting any of those messages. I tried to fix it a little bit before I started. I apparently have not done enough. But it's one of those things that if the organization does it right to begin with, then it'll keep going right. If you do it wrong, it just, you broke it. You broke Twitter.
So, do you, I have the UUOMDSI hashtag. Is there a way to then add it to my feed, or how do you, do I have to?
TweetDeck is good for that. So if I want to say, I want to see the #UU, I hit #UU, and then I hit enter, and I can see this. Now, here's some trolls. Robin Edgar is our most famous UU troll. But then there's other organizations, and they're all posting on that. If I click add column, it'll add a new column here in TweetDeck, so that I can easily follow that in the future. Okay, so one other thing, I have a slide here about TweetDeck and Hootsuite. I'm not going to show you Hootsuite, but it allows you to schedule posts to go out in the future. That's something Twitter doesn't, I don't think, yet have built in. You can monitor multiple accounts at the same time, multiple topics. It does real-time updating. So if we stayed on that page long enough, you'd probably see something new pop up, because and things slide down. Hootsuite is popular because you can do multiple social networks you can post to at the same time. Of course, you have to speak to the lowest common denominator of 140 characters then for all those networks, and they don't all have that limit. Google+. Now, Google+ is often described as like fixing everything in Facebook if only everybody could use it. Now, it's an exaggeration because there's over 400 million people that use Google+, but it doesn't have the penetration that Facebook has. But because it's better in so many different ways, it's still something that a lot of UU groups are starting to use. So why Google+? Frankly, because who doesn't have a Google, Gmail, a YouTube, a Casa, Google Calendar, Google Drive, Google Maps, Google Local, or an Android phone? I mean, a lot of people have these. And so it's seamless if you have these to integrate your social network if you use Google+. Some of the differences are that whereas Facebook was very much about you doing one-on-one friends, and Twitter was, you talking to the world, Google+ can be used for something in the middle or both of those. Because it has this concept of circles. You don't have friends. I can throw any of you into one of my circles. And if I then send something out to that circle, then you'll be able to see it in your Google+. I didn't have to friend you. And you don't have to add me to a circle, but you can. And it's one of these cases where it allows the person who's saying the things gets to kind of pick who they want to say it so that the other person could hear it. It doesn't have to be this reciprocity of friends. And the reason it's nice is because one of the common dilemmas that people have on Facebook is that you have your friends from work and you have your friends from church. They might be very different friends, and they may not appreciate the messages that are going to the other side. That's extremely easy to handle in Google+. You have a circle for your church, maybe a circle for other UUs that you know in the region. I have a UU and I have a KC. That have a lot of the same people in it. And they don't have to be mutually exclusive. You can have people in different circles. But then I can have another circle of coworkers. And if I'm saying something that is great for everybody, I can just share with everybody and share with the world. And if I'm comfortable with that. A lot of times if I'm sharing videos or pictures with family, I have one for my immediate family, and I have one for my family on my wife's side, and I have one for my family on my side. Because sometimes I'm sharing something that my side's going to hear about, my in-laws aren't, and vice versa. So it makes it very easy to create these different circles and control how you share things. And like I said, you don't have to ask permission. It has vastly better integration with doing online chat, online meetings, and even interactive voice communication, interactive video communication is built into the social network. Facebook has a little bit of a feature, but it's not anywhere near what Google has with Hangouts and YouTube. And their algorithm to date is not financially motivated. So you're likely to see the posts that the people that you've added to circles, are putting out there. And it might be smaller, but it's still really, really big. So I have a whole bunch of links here. I'm going to click on some just to show you what they look like. And we'll close a few of these other links. So this is me on Google+. And here's what I see when I come in. I can see stuff that has been posted. We're looking at my profile right now. But if I go to my home, is where I would see more like what you see when you come into Facebook, when you see what other people are posting. You notice there's no ads? That's the difference. I mean, there are ads in there every now and then, but pretty rare. These are things that again, you're seeing a lot of this best practices. I'm talking about pictures of the word. Pictures of the words. Church at a Larger Fellowship is huge online, and especially they seem to like Google+. And they post a lot of stuff. They have videos. They have a weekly show, The View, VUU, that they use through Google Hangouts online. There are, here, I'll just go through the areas. So I've got, you saw my profile. People is where I can, it recommends people based on your circles and who's in your circle and who's in their circles. You can see your own circles, and these are the circles I have. So my in-laws, friends from college, work, and then you have photos. This is integrated. This kind of replaced in many ways Picasso. And it does this really cool thing. So this is something posted by one of my friends. Google turned it into this animation because it detected that you were taking multiple photos from the same angle at different times, and it turns it into these cool animations. It's easy to do. There's a mobile app like you would expect. Communities is their version that on Facebook. But here, when I create the Hangout, I can add people, but I can also just add a circle, and then it would invite them. Pages, just like before, it's how you do institutions.
So you're maintaining for the Church of Kent a Facebook page and a Google Plus page?
Yes. However, I can show you. Okay, we're in as this.
What if you want to get into a Google group, but you're not invited?
It works the same way. They would, depending on the privacy, they would have to add you, or you'd be able to find it and you'd request, or it's open and you can just join.
Okay.
So this is my church. Now the thing is, these things that you see here posted are actually coming from our website. We're going to talk about this on day 5, but you can integrate WordPress with Google Plus and Twitter and Facebook, so that whenever one thing goes on your website, it automatically goes out to all the others. As long as you're using pictures on your WordPress, it'll pick it up. And that's what these are. These are not things that we posted manually. These are things that we posted through the website. You can see it picked up the image from the post and the beginning of the text. This required absolutely no effort on anybody's part. And the same is true for our Facebook page. Now you can also just, post something just here if something's only relevant to this, but that's how you bring it all together. Let me see if I covered, yeah, pretty much groups. Yeah, and we're going to talk more about doing online meetings tomorrow. Now, Reddit, I'm curious.
I've never heard of it.
Never heard of it. Anyone?
I've heard of it, but I don't know.
Okay.
Exactly. Right.
Okay, so Reddit is one that I predicted that you guys would not be as familiar with, but it is huge. It has over 100 million people active each month. They call themselves the front page of the internet. It's a pretty good description. People post links to pictures or to articles, and it starts discussion, interactive conversations back and forth. It could be questions. Sometimes there's certain areas, certain subjects that famous people like the president will go on and have an interactive Q&A with people on Reddit. Many celebrities do this. But one of the other things is that there's a subject specific for UU, but there's also for a number of other religions. This is, no question, the front line in the religious war between atheists and Christians on the internet. If you're up for that, and you're looking for that, this is where you go. And it goes both ways. They have large numbers of people arguing for both sides with each other, and this is where they come. Because they have channels set up specific for debate religion and debate a Christian. So when you're going in there, you know what you're going in there for. And, yes, so these are actually some of the graphics that they have for their different channels. Now, I don't want you to think that's everything that's on there. Most of it's not. Most of it's politics, but it's any topic under the sun. And I'm going to show you guys, we'll go to the UU one real quick. So this is the UU Reddit. So right here we have, for people who don't know what we are and somehow got here, are some of the principles. And there's an FAQ at the top. So there's pictures from GA, UU monasteries. So this is interesting. We'll see what this says. So this person says, I heard that the seminary programs function as monasteries. I want something truer to the sense of monastery for people who give up their worldly position. They're looking for a commune, I believe, which do still exist. Not as many, but they do exist. And then you see down below, people are posting responses. Now, here's the really innovative thing about
I don't
this.
think it's a joke.
This is not a joke.
I thought you said this is comedy. I thought you said
No.
someone was trying to do comedy. Oh, okay.
No, I
I think this is really sincere.
no, they're very sincere.
Yeah.
No, they're looking for a commune.
Oh, a commune.
A
Okay,
commune,
sorry.
yeah.
I didn't hear the rest of it.
No. So this, now the innovative thing about Reddit is you see, it's kind of faint, but up in the left of you see there's a number that says 4. It's got an arrow above and an arrow below. So on Facebook, we got likes. But you don't have not likes. Here you do. People vote up and vote down both the topic and each of the responses to the topic based on, well, whatever you want to base it on, relevance, you know, whether they're a troll, and that's what makes it interesting, is because people who are trolls, they very quickly get voted down, and then people don't see it.
Oh, you mean?
The visibility is controlled on the upvoting and downvoting. Now you can always get to everything if you want to click into that area where the downvoted stuff is. You can get to it, but that's why this is interesting, and it really creates a conversation. And this is a huge untapped potential on the internet, because this has so many people that tend to be very engaged, very, I would say, more intellectual in many ways than a lot of other parts of the internet. And it's not something that has been commercialized to the same extent as some of the other social networks. I have some links on the page, but they have created a way for nonprofits to even solicit money through Reddit. There's a famous case, not a story, but an actual occurrence, where there was a bus driver who had never been able to go on vacation. And Reddit community gave him a very large sum of money as a donation amongst many, many, many people. So it's the power of Reddit. There's also what is it's called the Reddit effect, where sites that aren't used to getting a lot of traffic, if they get voted up enough and get on the front page of Reddit, it can take down a site that's not ready for that traffic. Don't worry about, I wouldn't really worry about your church having that happen. Plus my site's actually hardened against that. But I just wanted to give you a taste. And here, if we want to, head into the front line, here's the r/atheism, where the flying spaghetti monster. And this is a lot of stuff that's very, not you-ish, let's just say, but very anti-organized religions. But you can find the same thing if you go to a number of the other areas. But there is also a middle ground, because there's the r/humanism, which the American Humanist Association is big in. And so they fostered more discussion that would be more UU friendly, maybe not entirely, but a little closer. But there's also Christianity, Buddhism, there's all sorts of areas. A lot of people come here to learn more about religions. And this is, again, going back to the UU Reddit channel, this is also an opportunity for us to put good word out there, and what our congregations are really like. Because there's people out there from different parts of the country that have very different impressions of what we are and what we aren't. Some of it's true, some of it's not true, some of it's somewhere in the middle. I have a number of articles here that you can read later about Reddit that I thought were interesting, because I figured you wouldn't know as much about it. Here's a good one. Social media expert, if you give me lots of money, I'll do various vague things to increase your web traffic. Wow, I would have been happy with just various things, but that vague stuff sounds great too. He's now my responsibility. Don't screw it up. His vagueness plan is great, because I think it will work. So, LinkedIn, like I said, is very business oriented. I don't think it's particularly relevant to a congregation, but it's huge. Pinterest is about, as I said, coming up with a series of pins that have photos, and it's often used for planning an event. It is used for some social justice kind of efforts, maybe if the the example that was given in GA is that, let's say we're going to do a community garden. You might do a bunch of Pinterest images ahead of time of the preparations and the things that are going to be created, maybe a drawing of what it's going to look like. And then after the event, people could create pins for pictures from the event. Flickr is actually kind of dwindling, but Flickr was really big for images. But since Facebook and Google Plus have both added really robust image capabilities, Flickr, which is owned by Yahoo, has kind of been on the decline. But there are some links here to the Standing on the Side of Love, UUA, UU Stock Photo that you should consider. Instagram, also used for pictures, not so artistic pictures. Like I said, it's largely the selfies, but it's a way for maybe, especially your UU youth, to share pictures with their friends about them doing fun stuff with UU. Foursquare is a check-in app, a check-in website. So businesses were using this a lot for people to, when they would come to a business, they would check in, and then other people would see where they have checked in. It really isn't going anywhere right now on the internet. Their numbers are going down, again, largely because Google Plus and Facebook both allow you to do the same thing, and they have a lot more people on those social networks. But Foursquare was the innovator for this. They paved the way, but unfortunately, they're on the decline.
Isn't that the one where people have, somehow they said something like Foursquare, I have come in.
You're the
such and
mayor
such a
of the
place.
church.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. If you're the one who's checked in the most, you become the mayor of that place.
Yeah.
So you can look over this because you will not be able to read it on the screen later. But this has a series of it's recommended for, it's really intended for businesses, but it gives you an idea for these different things that I've talked about, and what the differences are, so you can review that later. It's kind of like a one-page version of what we've been talking about today. So we're rounding, we're at the end of our time, but I would like to suggest these lab assignments if you have time, and of course none of us do. But if you haven't created a personal page on Facebook, Twitter, and Google Plus, I would recommend those three. Those are the largest. If you're going to start anywhere, those are where you start. And they're not hard to create an account. They really aren't. Join the group that I created. And in the future, you should really consider creating a fan page, a Twitter account, and a Google Plus page for your congregation. It doesn't cost anything. And that will feed into our fifth day when I talk about how you can then link, once you've done that, how you can link that into your WordPress so that you're actually posting information to these. Like I said, there are the UU labs that were on the pages earlier that are really great ongoing resources for you to hear about what other people are doing. And we, of course, have our own social media for OMDSI. We have the UU OMDSI @ and pound, unfortunately. And there is the link there to the SI on Facebook. Questions? Head spinning there?
Yeah, and
My head
run
is
over to me.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It was something for
Oh, going back to the Google Plus thing,
Yes.
you just add people. How do you just add people to
You
your,
just search for them by name.
And they already have to have a Google Plus.
so they have to have a Google
But
something?
they're very likely to have one if they have a Google mail address.
No, I don't have,
You don't have to.
Mail and
You don't have to.
Okay.
You can, it's not mutually, like, it's not automatic either way. Like, you can't have it if you don't have Google Mail. And no, you don't have to have Google Mail. You have to have a Google account. And then the first time you go to Google Plus, it just says, you want to create an account? Just say yes. That's it. So it's very low barrier for someone who has a Google account. And
Okay.
Very many people do.
Yeah, we try to do a lot of stuff with Google Docs at the church, and people just don't get the sharing. It just doesn't work, and they can't get there to, edit it out.
Maintenance is always a problem. I mean, people do wonderful things, and then they do the next wonderful thing because that's what they do. And then the poor people who are left with the stuff they did have to do maintenance. That's a rule of life.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I guess
I've been in.
Yeah, we have, we're gonna talk about that at Google Apps Day 5, but we haven't had that problem using Google Docs. Yeah,
It's because people don't have Google accounts. They don't have a Google
they
account.
have, no,
Yeah,
no, it's very simple.
And you don't,
No, very simple, they have to create it. It's
yeah.
not optional.
That's right.
If I like to say, if you signed up for the committee, you signed up for the committee. If you didn't sign up for the committee, you didn't sign up for the committee. It comes up, it comes up in things like social justice, that if you want to be anti-technology and you want to do modern social justice, guess what? You didn't sign up for the committee. You just think you did. You signed up to participate perhaps, but if you want to lead, sometimes you've got to get on board.
The thing, we use Docs too, and I personally have forgotten we're using Docs because somebody else has come up with something else that they're using to communicate things to each other.
Yeah.
And so I went on and somebody said,
Yes.
well, why don't you put it on Docs? Why don't you share it in Docs? Oh,
Yeah.
I remember that.
And that's,
And things were
yeah, we're going into Google Apps, but that's why creating Google Apps as your institution is a good idea, because you maintain control. You can create accounts for people. Say, this
How
is
do
you,
you do that?
in
I don't
Google
know.
Apps.
Yeah.
You log into Google Apps, and it's pretty easy. Add a user, and you create a username and a password. That gives them an email address. That gives them Google Docs. That gives them everything at KenU.org in my case, at your institution. And when they leave, guess what? They don't take that account with them. You own the account. So if they put the documents up on that account and they disappear, you still have access, and you can change their password if you need to as well. And not to say that everyone is going to be a bad actor. We know that's not true. It's very rare, but when it does happen, it's disruptive. And so having multiple people who are admins for your Google Apps and having people using Google Apps can let you use an institutional email address. You can create as many mailing lists, and this is all free, by the way.
And this is day 4 or 5?
This is 5.
Okay.
You can create mailing lists. And so there's a problem there with committees where everyone has their own private list of email addresses. How does a new member become part of that committee when there's no way to get added to everybody's address book?
Right.
You need to get the committees to stop using those lists. And this is hard because I'm still working this battle. But you gotta give them their list.
We used to do it with Yahoo groups, and they've changed.
Yes.
Now you have to accept the invite, and it's really.
And you don't have to do that if you have Google Apps.
Okay.
But Google Groups has the same problem. That's the we're covering Big 5, sorry.
Okay.
But that's the big difference between Google Apps and regular Google Groups. The Google Groups for Business, which is part of Google Apps, and you get it free for the nonprofits, that allows you to add someone without them accepting it.
Oh, thank God.
This is what my church uses for our mailing list.
Yeah.
We use Google Apps, and within Google Apps, one of the components is Google Groups for Business, which is the full-blown paid version of Google Groups that businesses pay $5 a person to have Google Apps, and that is one of the differences, is that in those groups, you can actually just add someone. They don't have to accept it. And the difference is accountability and spam. Spammers use Google Groups, the public ones, to send email to people that did not ask for the email. But in a business Google Apps, there's accountability. They know who the business is. They have our names and phone numbers. And so they're not as worried about spam because they can